Here's Rob's 24-hour forecast.
A severe thunderstorm warning just issued for portions of Acadia Parish into Vermilion, also Lafayette Parish. Very intense supercell thunderstorm right near the Morris area, producing a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning and more than likely some hail as well. We've been watching this over the last few minutes, and let's just take a quick look at some storm tracking here. And again, the Doppler indicating the possibility of upwards of maybe quarter-size hail, maximum hail possibility up to 2 inches. So pretty intense cell here. So let's back it up and back out of this and show you what we have going on. Big picture, scattered storms across the area, but boy, you can see where that lightning is really concentrated across portions of Acadia Parish this afternoon. That's where we have the severe thunderstorm warning. That's in effect till 5:30. This is heading for Crowley shortly. A lot of positive cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, so we know there's good updrafts and downdrafts, so more than likely at least marble-size hail, maybe quarter-size hail, and wind gusts in the 60-mile-per-hour range, and it stays busy as we head through the overnight hours. These storms diminish later on this evening, but more on the way overnight tonight through daybreak tomorrow. So rain chances pretty high. These numbers for Lafayette, the numbers going up to 60, 70, 80% overnight tonight. In general, we'll go 100% on your rain chances tonight, 80 to 90% early tomorrow, and then rain chances should die off a little bit in the afternoon, but we'll pick up again as we head into tomorrow night. So some strong to severe storms out there, more of the same expected as we go through the rest of the evening and the overnight hours, and we'll have more coming up in just a little bit.
In Evangeline Parish, a woman is under arrest after deputies say she beat her grandmother with a back scratcher and picture frame during an argument. Cecilia Ann Lee is facing attempted murder and aggravated battery charges. Deputies were called to a home in Ville Platte Tuesday where they say they found the victim suffering from injuries. We're told Lee beat her grandmother before vandalizing the home and breaking her phone. Deputies say Lee later fell asleep on a couch. The victim, at last check, is in ICU in critical but stable condition. 3 juveniles are now under arrest in connection with 3 separate bomb threats made at 2 high schools in St. Martin Parish. 2 of the threats happened at Cecilia High, one on March 1st and another on March 14th. The third was at Brobridge High School on March 14th. Deputies say all 3 threats were written on the bathroom wall. The children were booked and released to the custody of their parents. And 2 Lafayette men are facing fines and jail time. They're accused of dumping 80 sacks of dead crawfish at a boat launch in Vermilion Parish. Adam Ory and Austin Barbier were cited for gross littering. According to Wildlife and Fisheries, Ory bought live crawfish in Louisiana, drove them to Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida to sell them. But he then drove back to Louisiana, dumping the crawfish he couldn't sell. Ory was also cited for buying fish without a retail seafood license, violating commerce regulations, and failing to maintain records. A federal jury handing down a guilty verdict against a Broussard woman who defrauded Medicare out of more than $1.5 million. Crystal Glover Wing wasn't convicted on 1 count of conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and 3 counts of healthcare fraud. Glover Wing was the owner of Angel Hospice Care. Evidence shows more than 24 patients were placed on hospice by the company without meeting the criteria required by Medicare. The fraudulent claims reimbursed to Angel Care resulted in a loss of more than $1.5 million. Glover Wing faces up to 30 years in prison and a fine of $250,000.
The Evangeline Parish Police Jury will soon conduct an investigation into a homeowner who neighbors say has an excessive number of items in his yard. Brenda Tolston has lived in her home for 46 years. She says her next door neighbor's home appears to have buggies full of items, a large trailer full of things, and tons of tires in the yard. Police Jury President Brian Verdreen says they will notify the homeowner, and that person will then have 25 days to clean up the property. He says if nothing happens, the parish will step in with removal.
We've tried to get him to clean it up. I've been to the Board of Health. They came. I've been to the police jury. I've been to the sheriff's department. I have not been able to get anything done. I don't know what else to do.
Well, Opelousas parents, if you're looking for a safe and positive environment for your children this summer, applications are now open for the police department's junior police program. It's open to children in grades 3 through 6 who live in Opelousas or are enrolled in a school in Opelousas. You can fill out the application at KATC.com. We've posted a link inside of this story.
New developments in the special counsel's criminal investigation into former President Trump's actions leading up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Former Vice President Mike Pence now says he will not appeal a judge's order requiring him to testify before the federal grand jury. ABC's Faith Abube is in Washington with the story.
Fresh off his historic criminal indictment in a New York City courtroom, potential new troubles brewing for former President Donald Trump. Trump's former Vice President Mike Pence now closer than ever to testifying in a separate federal criminal probe into Trump's actions leading up to, during, and after the deadly Capitol riot on January 6. Pence was subpoenaed by special counsel Jack Smith back in February to provide documents and answer questions in the investigation, but the former vice president initially resisted.
No vice president in American history has ever been compelled to testify against a president with whom they serve.
Pence appealed the subpoena, arguing that his role as president of the Senate, overseeing the certification of Joe Biden's Electoral College victory, exempted him from having to testify.
We're going to respect the decisions of the court, and it may take us all the way to the highest court in the land.
But Pence now dropping that fight after a judge ruled last week that he must provide documents and answer questions under oath in relation to actions of his former boss in connection to January 6. The judge also rejecting Trump's claims of executive privilege. A Pence spokesperson saying in a statement that Pence, quote, will not appeal the judge's ruling and will comply with the subpoena as required by law. Pence was the target of the pro-Trump mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol. He also endured immense pressure from Trump to overturn the election results.
Did you ever point blank say to the president, I will not do this, I will not intervene, we lost this election?
I did, David, many times.
And Trump could still appeal the court's decision to compel Pence's testimony, but he has failed in similar efforts to keep some of his other top aides from testifying. In Washington, Faith Abube, ABC News.
Stormy Daniels, who's at the center of a hush money payment scheme involving the former president, is speaking out. Daniels says she doesn't think former President Trump should serve jail time if he's convicted in her case, but Daniels went on to say she feels Trump should, quote, absolutely face jail time if he's found guilty of the other things that he's done, she says. The ex-porn star says she would absolutely testify in Donald Trump's criminal case if it goes to trial.
Meanwhile, just 1/3 of Americans believe President Biden deserves to be reelected. In a CNN poll, a majority of Democrats say they would like to see someone else as the party nominee. Meanwhile, Biden's approval rating was at 42% overall. That's pretty stagnant from his ratings in January. Biden's handling of major issues like immigration, the economy, and gun policy have remained unchanged. The only issue where he significantly outperforms his overall standing is on environmental policy. Even there, 46% of people polled approve. At least 417 anti-LGBTQ plus bills have been introduced in state legislatures across the U.S. this year, 2 of them coming out of Louisiana. It's more than twice the number of such bills introduced last year. Education and healthcare related bills in particular are flooding in at unprecedented levels. That includes a renewed push to ban access to gender affirming healthcare for transgender youth. There's also been a heavy focus on regulating curriculum in public schools, including discussions around gender identity and sexuality. 24 of the more than 400 bills introduced this year have been signed into law in 11 states so far.
Still ahead on Acadiana's news channel at 5, a final farewell for the 2 Baton Rouge area police officers who died in that recent helicopter crash. We'll take you there coming up.
And a severe thunderstorm warning for Acadia Parish. Strong winds, hail, a big part of this storm, and more storms on the way overnight tonight for the rest of us. We'll talk more about that and have the True View forecast and an update on that severe weather coming up right after the break.
From the KATC Weatherland, here's Rob's forecast.
Well, as expected, showers and thunderstorms impacting the area late this afternoon, early this evening. Some storms severe. We'll get to that in just a bit, but look at the big picture here. We'll take this full and work our way over to the Key Wall. Lots in the way of showers and storms across the region as a weak frontal boundary pushes on through. That front has made it through Lafayette, but all the action is along and just west and northwest of the front. And you can see we have a couple of supercells showing up. One here across southeast Texas. That's going to be impacting southwest Louisiana. Louisiana, and the cell of interest closer to home as we dial into Power Doppler 3. Very intense cell that is moving through Acadia Parish here. A lot of cloud to ground lightning showing up with this cell, and we could just do a query on some of the heavier rainfall by the Crowley area, and it's let's get it right now and hit it right there. About 3 inches or so of rain per hour with this system, and we take a look at the big picture here, and we just take a look at the lightning. A lot of cloud to ground lightning strikes over 700 in this box right here, and what we look at is positive to negative ratio. When positive is outweighing negative, more than likely you're having strong updrafts and downdrafts and gusty winds, and thus we have a severe thunderstorm warning for this cell that covers Acadia Parish, portions of Vermilion Parish, and edges into western Lafayette Parish, and that's until 5:30 this evening. So we open it on up. Let's take a look at this cell as we go into a storm tracking mode, and it's been showing some rotation going on here, a mesocyclone. This is the same cell that we had a tornado warning for earlier down toward Cameron Parish, and now the Doppler telling us there is a mesocyclone. That's a small area of low pressure embedded with the thunderstorm, hail size possibly up to an inch or so, and there's no doubt that this is probably producing nickel to maybe quarter-size hail. As we take a look at our hail tracker here, you can see it was producing a little bit more in the way of hail along and south of the Highway 14 corridor, now working its way to around the Acadiana area, and then points to the north, not Acadiana, but southeastern portions of Acadia Parish. So we have that warning in place till 5:30 this evening, and on top of that, flood watch, where we think the heaviest rains are going to be setting up later on tonight and continuing across eastern Texas and western Louisiana. So here we go, put things in motion. Now the storms we have now should weaken as they progress to the north and east, but not before causing more trouble over the next hour or two. Then storms refocus back to the west of us, gradually work their way eastward, and we're going to see more activity initiating overnight tonight. So the concern, maybe not so much for severe weather, but certainly flooding, where we're going to see the possibility of training thunderstorms. Now as we get toward tomorrow morning, it looks like activity may just break up a little bit, get into the scattered zone, heavier rain axis off to the east, but we're expecting more developments as we get into Friday night, into Saturday morning. It looks like by midday Saturday or by Saturday afternoon, we should be in much better shape, so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. So let's get rid of that banner right there. Here's a rainfall per the latest HER model, and we've been saying 2 to 4, 1 to 3 a good bet, and wherever those storms are right now, notice it's kind of missing out where the storm is right now. That's going to be producing 2 to 3 inches of rain, so some localized street flooding certainly a possibility, and the European model painting a pretty broad picture as well. We'll take a look at that graph model coming up at 6 o'clock, but you can see good soaking in the offing for many of us, and that may translate to some localized street flooding from time to time. So we'll be watching that factor closely as we go through the overnight hours. Less of a way in the way of a severe weather threat, more in the way of a heavy rain and localized flooding threat. So temperatures cooling off behind the front into the 60s overnight tonight, and we probably stay in the 60s for a good part of the day tomorrow. Maybe lower 70s if we see a little sun tomorrow afternoon. Moving into Saturday, temperatures upper 50s to lower 60s, and staying in the lower 70s for Saturday, and it looks that way for Easter Sunday as well. So a stormy night on tap, showers and thunderstorms likely. We have rain chances pegged at 100%. Doesn't mean it's going to rain all night long, but there's going to be some locally heavy downpours through the overnight hours, and much the same as we start the day tomorrow. I have it at 90% for early in the day, but probably closer to 40% as we head into the afternoon. Also cool and breezy with northeasterly winds kicking in tonight, and they're going to stay with us tomorrow. So a bit of a change there after reaching the mid to upper 80s this afternoon. So as we move it into the 10-day forecast, your high rain chances through tomorrow morning, maybe easing off a little bit, picking back up tomorrow night into early Saturday, but I think Saturday afternoon's workable. Easter Sunday, risk of a few spotty showers, but look at these temperatures, much cooler, and some nice Chamber of Commerce weather as we go into the mid and latter part of next week. Highs in the 70s, lows, we're not done with the 50s yet. We have some mornings in the 50s there, but in the near term, some strong to intense to severe thunderstorms in Acadia Parish. We'll keep an eye on that cell. It's going to be heading towards St. Landry in the next half hour or so, and have an update before the show is done here.
All right, very good. Thanks, Rob.